In today's news, BVI health officials asked persons who attended a recent funeral to isolate for 10 days as attendee tests positive for COVID-19.
We also see the owner of the Sugarcane restaurant as well as Sabre Rock dying on Saturday in a helicopter crash.
International Motors BVI staff receives COVID vaccine. They continue to encourage persons in the public to get vaccinated.
And today we are live with the sportsman, Mr. Dean Greenaway, of course, to discuss Chantel Malone's newest accomplishment, of course, qualifying for the Olympics long jump in Tokyo. All that and so much more when 284 News returns. Welcome everyone to another amazing week of local, regional, as well as international content here at 284 News. It is Monday, March 29th, 2021. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant. It's always a pleasure coming to you live and direct from our home, our paradise, Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Before we get into today's newscast, a few summary items that we must touch on. A government seeks to eradicate fronting in the business community, says Junior Minister of Trade and Economic Development. Most of the BVI's hillside big houses came through hard work, says a former Education Minister, Myron Walwyn. This, of course, is as situations concerning law enforcement has been circulating, and a lot of persons within the community have taken the recent statements by the police commissioner very personal. So we're going to get into that, of course. BVI looking to expand into expedition cruising. Government of the Virgin Islands to introduce overnight quarantine if vaccination increases, says Health Minister. And government presses ahead with renewable energy plan.
We also see in the region nearly a dozen travelers being arrested in the Bahamas for actually presenting fake COVID-19 tests just last week. Now they are expected to face the courts within the next few days. We're not sure what's going to come out of that, but we do know that this is yet another new scare as we examine what's really happening, not just within the travel industry, but how COVID-19 has been affecting us. And we do see time and time again persons really trying to avoid the protocols that are in place. Now, according to the latest emergency powers order, a negative COVID-19 test, PCR test that is, must be obtained by travelers departing from New Providence, Grand Bahama, as well as Abaco. Now, everyone traveling to the Bahamas must obtain a negative COVID-19 PCR test taken no more than 5 days prior to the date of the arrival.
Wonderful. Now, beginning on our newscast on the local scene, in a recent correspondence which has caused quite the pandemonium across the Virgin Islands, a Ministry of Health officials on Sunday, March 28th, notified the public that a person who tested positive for COVID-19 attended a well-attended funeral held on Saturday, March 27th, 2021 at the Seacows Bay Methodist Church. Officials have asked that all persons who attended the funeral to isolate for 10 days and contact the public health unit from Monday, today, 28, between 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 to schedule your test. Now, there is no payment associated with the testing, says officials. Now, additionally, stating that the person who had their vaccine 4 weeks ago will not be required to quarantine. That is, those persons who vaccinated at least their first dose 4 weeks ago. Now, the Ministry of Health said they strongly recommend the unvaccinated persons get their vaccination as soon as possible to prevent you from getting COVID-19 or seriously ill from the COVID-19 illness. Now, if you are exposed to an infected person, please note that the vaccination after recent exposure to the virus will not prevent disease from occurring, but future COVID-19 infections. Now, the recent announcement caused quite chaos around the territory of the Virgin Islands. And we see the government of the Virgin Islands and its health officials appealing to persons to get vaccinated. Now, Jovan, very interesting about this story that we need to look at. Many persons, of course, once hearing the news, went into chaos, panic. But what we're not hearing from officials, sources close to the situation have confirmed that the person in question did actually test negative upon leaving the quarantine. What is being painted, unfortunately, is that there was some breach. Now, officials have yet to confirm this, but they're not necessarily stating both sides. And we see where persons who are, of course, in such a situation are really disheartened. But we need to cover both aspects of the story. And I think the Ministry of Health officials need to publicly state what might have went wrong in this process. It's just not fair to the individuals.
It is not, and it's causing a lot of fear-mongering in the community as well, because we're hearing so many opinions as it relates to the story. Ron, so many times we've had midnight updates, press conferences for various different updates throughout this pandemic. I think something as big as 9 cases overnight, or us at least confirming those cases, warrants the government hosting a press conference. And if not the government, like you said, the medical officials who really have been on the forefront dealing with the issues of COVID-19.
I agree.
We have heard this is an intentional effort by government to get persons vaccinated because persons are coming in slow numbers. We have also heard that the person breached quarantine, flew in from overseas, was positive, breached quarantine to attend the funeral, and now we're also hearing that it could have been a false positive.
Exactly, correct. And we need to get clarification from the ministry. Exactly.
And a lot of persons are, and I think duly upset about having to quarantine because so many persons attended that funeral, 10 days in isolation, and we cannot trust the public to do that. So I think it's imperative that the officials come forward.
And now the recent announcement, as we said, caused quite a stir, and one resident on social media responding to, just like you said, Jovan, and in echoing that they stated that, and I quote, "Forcing people to get vaccinated is not the way." Lots of questions from the residents coming out of the recent announcement, but not a lot of answers. Now the question, though, are residents being pressured to be vaccinated? And if so, is this the route officials want to take?
Wow. And, one of the things that was mentioned in that press release was also the fact that government said, take the vaccine to prevent you from getting COVID-19. The vaccine does not prevent anyone from getting COVID-19. What it does is it reduces your chances of having severe symptoms if you come into contact with the virus.
We have to look at our messaging and our narrative, and we have to be concerned about what exactly what messages we're being sent to our audience.
All right, viewers, as we move on, very tragic news. Just this morning, we're learning that the owner of Sugarcane Restaurant in Sabre Rock, Mr. Peter Kellner, died in a hell skiing excursion on Saturday when their chopper crashed near a glacier in Alaska. Now, he was the wealthiest person in Czech Republic and had been on vacation at a remote luxury lodge located just 40 minutes off of Anchorage. Now, the billionaire was pronounced dead on March 27th among 4 other people who was on board the Airbus AS350B3 helicopter. When it went down near the glacier, the lodge chartered the aircraft, said on Sunday. Now, this news comes as a big blow to the British Virgin Islands, and in particular the Virgin Gorda community, where Mr. Kellner has been touted a mastermind and, of course, a key contributor to the advancement of tourism on the island. Now, Mr. Doug Regels, business partner and friend of Mr. Kellner, is deeply saddened by the loss. He said, and I quote, "Peter's accomplishments on a global level alone stand for themselves, but it was his friendship, loyalty, and honesty that made him that much more special. What he's done for the BVI through his entire time here is unquantifiable, and the way he stepped up after Hurricanes Irma and Maria to help all of Virgin Gorda rebound was a true testament to his character and love for his country." End of quote. Now, the chair of the Virgin Gorda Recovery Operations Center, which is VG Rock, of course, and as well as a Virgin Gorda community activist and former director of the BVI Tourist Board, Sharon Flax Brutus, reflected on his many contributions. She said, and I quote, "The news of his passing this morning sapped my positive energy, but then I rebounded because he was a kind man and a true philanthropist, and he loved our Virgin Gorda. What I liked most about him was his propensity to engage and to get his hands dirty. Now, after the storms, he worked diligently with us at VG Rock to help us put our Lil VG back together. He put work crews in neighborhoods. He brought in generators and building supplies and also put roofs back on. He came to our base to share what he could and, of course, to see what work we could do together. She also added that his greatest gift to me was a bag of ice, adding that, he offered her first glass of cold water.
Wow.
After the storm. You do know that was very sentimental.
That was a hot commodity. But it brings
Yes.
us to remembrance that these simple things are really what matter when
Yes,
persons
yes.
are giving persons and they serve. Simple things like this is what we remember.
Absolutely. Now, she, of course, offered her condolences to the family and friends. This is such a historic loss, Ron. We do know Kellner was an avid snowboarder and kite surfer, and he had a net worth of $15.7 billion, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index. He was born in 1964 in CZEC, and studied economics and worked as a salesman for an office equipment distributor shortly after the Communist Party imploded in what became known as the Velvet Revolution in 1989. Again, a very significant loss for the Virgin Gorda community, and by default, the BVI. This man was certainly a man of great honor.
Yes.
He used his powerful influences to definitely help in so many ways. And even when you look at the commentary under this post this morning, you see so many persons echoing the same sentiment. He lived in Virgin Gorda, and when the storms hit, he stayed, he helped, he builded. Somebody even said he assisted with building homes, repairing homes. So I just think it's such an invaluable contribution as we reflect on not just who he was, but what he contributed to the legacy of this territory.
And a legacy, Jovan, that will absolutely live on in the hearts and minds of all Virgin Islanders, but particularly those in Virgin Gorda. Viewers, still ahead, International Motors, the staff receives COVID-19 vaccine, and they encourage the public to get vaccinated. And we're live with the one and only Dean, the sportsman Greenaway, on the Chantal Malone's newest accomplishment. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
The win. Oh,
What in the hell
I'm freaking out.
is about these people?
It's always a pleasure coming to you live and direct from the
What's poppin'? What's really good?
Davis has won it for the Lakers.
Viewers, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. You're watching 284 News out of Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Continuing on the local scene here in Tortola. In a recent Facebook post, a staff of the International Motors Fish Bay Tortola posed for a photo after having announced that the staff received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. The post read, and I quote, "Don't procrastinate, vaccinate. Very proud that the team here at International Motors have committed to doing their part to stop the spread. Every person in this photograph has received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. As a company, we encourage our staff members who wanted to get the vaccine and facilitated this during the working hours by providing them with transport to the centers. We had a couple of people who got headaches, a couple of people felt a slight fever, and many felt a bit more tired than usual, but within 24 hours, all side effects had gone. We would like to say thank you to those in the community who have taken the vaccine, and we continue to encourage anyone who can go to get theirs." Now, the corporate announcement of staff vaccination comes as health officials in the BVI continue to plead with residents to get vaccinated with hopes of getting some 70 to 75% of the BVI population vaccinated. Recently, Minister for Health and Social Development, the Honorable Carvin Malone, announced that a Community Outreach Awareness Committee was being formulated in an effort to not only encourage residents to get vaccinated, but to clarify any misinformation that may be in the public. Additionally, over 20% of the population has received their first jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine in the British Virgin Islands. Now, this is according to Minister of Health and Social Development, Honorable Carvin Malone, who said, and I quote, "As of March 23rd, 2021, approximately only 7,000 first doses have been administered to our elderly, our medical, ununiformed, and frontline staff, and to those of us in the territory who have willingly consented." The health minister, within his March 25th WhatsApp media update, also indicated that the BVI will inherit a total of 32,000 shots of the vaccine by April 2nd, compliments of the United Kingdom. He said, and I quote, "As of today, March 25th, at that time, the BVI had received 20,000 doses of the vaccine, and the UK has indicated on March 31st a further 12,000 doses of the vaccine and relevant supplies will be delivered. In total, by April 2nd, 2021, BVI would have received 32 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine." Now, we continue to hear and cover, Jovan, that in an exclusive interview we heard from a very own retired nurse who really brought home the sentiment that locals are not getting tested. That's Nurse Gretchen Hodge-Penn, who has volunteered and has been volunteering at a local community center and giving of her services. And we continue to question, officials continue to question, why is it that locals are not being tested and not coming forward, rather, for the vaccine. She said, very active in the beginning. We were averaging at about 160 people within a 4-hour period that we're doing across the vaccines, but within the past couple of weeks, we really slowed down to 75, 60, and 65. The people coming in now, our BVI lenders, are the lowest numbers I have seen. That causes a need for concern. I'm hoping that they too take the time to do research, to ask questions, and within the time frame, they will come to have their vaccinations done. That was Nurse Hodge-Penn. Now, adding to these sentiments, the Honorable Malone stated that BVI residents of other nationalities have agreed in large percentages and have predominantly been vaccinated, but our local population have been rather hesitant, and only a small percentage have agreed and have been vaccinated. We continue to cover the vaccination rollout. Jovan, is it's important, but again, it is still an individual decision.
Absolutely, and more conversation again is needed. So I'm happy to see the government announcing that a territory-wide campaign will start soon enough to edify the public. In order to make an informed decision, we must know the facts. Now, on to a very special interview with our very special guest, the one and only sportsman, Dean Greenaway, or I should say Dean the Sportsman Greenaway. Yes, welcome to 284 Media.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we see BVI Lander, of course, Chantal Malone, making history. We were jumping into your world today. Just tell us a little bit about her latest achievement, because I know everybody's up and about really supporting, complimenting her efforts. So tell us all about it.
Well, she won the Florida International Pro Edition meet on Saturday, where she jumped 7.08 meters. That is 23 feet, 2.5 inches. That is now the number 2 mark in the world this year, which is significant because it also qualified her for the Olympic Games. This would be her first Olympic Games, and she would be the 3rd female athlete behind Taisha Aragon-Scott and Ashley Kelly to have competed in the Olympic Games. She improved her best from 6.90 meters last year, which is 22 feet 7 inches to over 23 feet.
Wow.
And it is the 2nd best jump throughout the CAC region in history. So this is significant, and of course she must be congratulated on that type of effort that she has put into achieving this, because in 2017 her best was 6.67 meters, which is about 21 feet 11 inches.
Wow, so massive improvement, and of course qualifying, like you said, 2nd in the world. When I think about Chantal Malone, super multi-talented as an athlete, what do you think it takes for her to be able to perform at that level?
Well, one of the things we have noticed here is the athletes who do multiple events, a combination of running and jumping, have been more successful. You go back to guys like Keita Klein, Dion Crabb, who have all won, especially Dion, who have won a CAC medal. You have Chantal and you have Taisha. They have that background in running and jumping. And field events has been one of her strengths. And when she won the Pan Am Games in 2019, her coach, Dwight Phillips, who is a 4-time world champion and the 2004 Olympic champion, I spoke to him about her development. And one of the things she was talking about when I interviewed her earlier today for another report, I was asking her about how he has been able to help her to go from 21 feet 11 inches to 23 feet. And this is what she said.
All right, we're going to go to that clip. Listen in.
For me, it's just been a matter of his ability to communicate what I see in my head in a way that makes me understand. Because I've been to coaches that are talented. I've been to coaches that are awesome coaches. And they know everything that needs to be done in order to jump far. But for me, it was a click in terms of, I know what you want me to do. I see it in my head, but I just can't translate it on the track. And so for him, he kind of broke everything apart for me and put it together piece by piece. And that way I was able to kind of grasp it in a way that I couldn't have before. And maybe it's because he was an athlete and he probably understands some of my blockage and stuff like that. But yeah, that's been the difference really. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of being the most knowledgeable coach or whatever the case is. I feel like he's very experienced in the field. If it clicks, it clicks. And him and I, we have a good dynamic. And so it's just been easy for me to put it out there.
That was a BVI Olympic athlete, of course, the one and only Chantel Malone. Now, Dean, she mentioned identifying with the athlete in her coach and how that really helped to bridge the gap. Speak to us about that a little bit more.
Well, I think he being through the rigors that she's going through as an athlete, sometimes there are psychological things that prevent you from getting to where you can go. And I think one of the most underrated components of sport that we don't even consider most of the time is that of the psychological aspect of the athlete. And those are things that really make a difference.
Absolutely.
And the mark that Chantel did she is co-equal to the 40th best jump ever in the history of the world.
Wow.
In that event.
Wow, that's incredible.
We can also look at two other athletes who have qualified. Kyron McMaster.
I was just about to get to him. Yeah.
His 400-meter time of 47.54 seconds is number 19 ever in the world in the history of the event. And Eldred Henry,
yes,
he is tied with 5 others at number 83 in the world in the shot put, with his distance of 21.47 meters. So it shows that there is some pedigree here, and I think, the athletes will do us well at the Tokyo Olympic Games.
Now, you just mentioned it. We've all seen how the local athletes continue to dominate, not only on the local, regional, but also in the international arena. Why do you think that is? And how can we better prepare, not just prepare, but how can we better support them as it relates to sports here in the Virgin Islands?
Well, I think one of the things when I was president of the Athletics Association, I tried to do is I developed a program which we called Project Podium. A lot of people didn't really understand or buy into it. But what I did was I examined our athletes competing at the Carifta Games with the regional athletes. And I was noticing that many of the regional athletes would win medals at Carifta, but they would go on to win medals at other events, and our athletes weren't doing that. So we identify all the athletes between 10 and 14 back in 2012, and from 2013 to 2018, the goal was to win 1 medal in an area where the BVI had never won a medal before. And since that time, including Chantel's medal, we have won like 7 medals in 6 different areas. So the athletes need support, not just financial support, but the encouragement, opportunities to go to competition, help with their training and nutrition, things like getting them, if they need to get a practice or get to an off-island competition.
Yes.
Those are the important things that they need to help them to develop. And of course, when they perform, the colleges and universities will be looking at them to help them, in their programs.
Absolutely. I think well said. You have a real eye for sports. Of course, we had to get you in today. I want to thank you so much for all that you do in the sports arena, and of course, continue to encourage you. You will be back, Dean. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, but there's so much more when we come back. Stick with us.
Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and our partners that hold us down. It's season 2 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, taking you on the most inspiring journey with the best. and brightest distinguished gentlemen of the BVI. Raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men like you've never seen them before. Governor Augustus J.U. Jaspert, Jovan Klein, Neil Klein, and so much more. Turning modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen with yours truly, Ron Grant, a 284 Media production.
Viewers, as we begin to wrap up today's newscast, we see Minister for Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration, Honorable Vincent Whitley, praising the Labor Arbitration Tribunal for its work in clearing the backlog of matters, some dating back as far as 2015. Now, while addressing the participants at the first workshop hosted by the tribunal that was held last Tuesday, March 23rd, Honorable Vincent Whitley said, since Attorney-at-Law Jamal Smith took on the role of the chairman of the Labor Arbitration Tribunal, there has been 12 backlog matters dating back to 2015, with 9 new matters to date. Honorable Whitley said, and I quote, Mr. Smith and his team have adjudicated or settled at least 13 of those matters. Currently, there are 8 active matters, and there has already been 15 hearings and 2 trials for the year, which is a testament to the commitment that a tribunal has to serve the people of the BVI. Building capacity within the territory is paramount to keeping the Virgin Islands compliant with international best practices and standards, end of quote. Now, the chairman of the Labor Arbitration Tribunal, Mr. Jamal Smith, said that the management of the labor market is the most significant aspect of economic development and revitalization, especially while recovering from the most devastating natural disasters back in 2017 and now the COVID-19 pandemic that, of course, is heading into its second year. Mr. Smith said, and I quote, the Labor Arbitration Tribunal is central to maintaining certainty and, of course, security in the labor market. So this is the first in what will be many more workshops like this, supported by the ministry, that is absolutely critical to our territory's economic success, end of quote. Now, viewers, the workshop was facilitated by former presiding judge of the BVI Commercial Court, Honorable Barry Leon. We also had FCI ARB and partner at Spencer West LLP, Mrs. Sean Greer, and FCI ARB. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Sean Greer, FCI ARB. Now, it focused on the role and powers of the tribunal procedural hearings, evidence, and applications. Participants were also engaged in lectures, group discussions, and mock hearings. We also heard from participant Chief Fire Officer, Mr. Zebulon McLean, who said that he enjoyed the workshop and is hoping that the labor solutions can be found for employees and employers going forward. Mr. McLean said, and I quote, we signed up for this workshop because we really do want to serve in a way that makes things easier, not only for the employees, but also for employees as well. There must be some level of accountability, and we want to have a balance to make sure that many of the problems that we have with labor matters are satiated, end of quote. Now, the Labor Arbitration Tribunal is an independent tribunal set up under the Labor Code 2010 with the power to make orders and awards with the same force as an order or award of the High Court. Now, Ron, just excellent. Recently, we saw the appointment just a few short months ago,
Mr. Smith.
The appointment of Mr. Smith, and it came with very good reviews. But we're seeing here that, he's really performing well. A lot of these cases, like the article mentioned, have been backlogged to 2015. Yes. And it's very frustrating to the business community when we think about the employers as well as the employees as well. So kudos to the team at the Labor Arbitration Unit.
I agree, and I think they should be commended for continuing to grow from strength to strength. We're very proud, and I think at this very pivotal moment, just like you said, it's most important that we continue to get this backlog out and move businesses forward.
All right, viewers, I think that is all the time we have for today. But as always, we're reminding you to check us out via our website. That is 284media.com. You cannot miss it. We're also on Facebook at 284media. And if you're Instagrammer like me and Twitter, we're there at 284BVI as well. As usual, it is my pleasure. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant. We'll see you again tomorrow as we deliver your daily dose of local, regional, and of course, international content. Your source here in Tortola in the British Virgin Islands. Have a happy Monday. Bye-bye.